Thank you, Mr. Ryan. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd also like to congratulate my honourable friend, the member from Murray, who gave an excellent speech, very logical and rationally explaining the issue that we are facing in many parts of the United Kingdom, but I think, speaking parochially, very much an issue in Scotland. And if my honourable friend from Waveney thinks that people look at him strangely if he uses cash in London, I encourage him to try and use a £20 Royal Bank of Scotland note, because recently I was refused the opportunity of spending my money in London, and it's an issue that I took up with WH Smith and got a good apology from them, Mr. Ryan, which is only appropriate. I've been involved in many campaigns since I was elected to this House to fight against unwanted and unnecessary branch closures. And in my constituency, Balfron, Bannockburn, Bridge of Allan, St Ninians have no bank branches at all due to recent branch closures. And Callander is down to its last branch. And when a town is down to its last bank and that bank is threatened with closure, I strongly believe it is right for the government to act. And I say that as a Conservative Member of Parliament. Of course, we had this really anomalous situation in Bridge of Allan, which I think may be of interest to members. The Clydesdale Bank and the Royal Bank of Scotland both closed their branches at the same time, and each bank justified their closure by citing the existence of the other branch. How ridiculous is that? And they've now both closed, leaving the people of Bridge of Allan without a bank branch, despite both branches stating that they would have one. And this situation really must not be allowed to happen. And the government must be prepared to act to remove that kind of justification when two bank branches announce their closures at the same time. And when the Royal Bank of Scotland closed their Bannockburn branch, they justified it in terms of proximity to city centre premises. But guess what? They then moved those premises further away for the customers. Now, it happens to be a very plush branch, but there are a few obstacles to being able to get there in the first place. Now, it's very important that this consultation process that the banks are encouraged to go through, are required to go through, is not just a tick-box exercise. And I'm very fearful that that's exactly what it is. It's a fait accompli from the point of announcement. And any consultation that goes on is a completely pointless exercise. I might also add that that's possibly also true of post office closures that are announced as well. They are also, I think, nothing less than, nothing more than, a tick-box exercise. So I'd really like to hear from the Minister what the government is planning to do. There have been lots of representation, and I know the Minister, he's a very good fellow. There have been many representations, many debates, many speeches that have been on this subject, and it's really now time for the government to produce some kind of policy initiative to do something about it. The Treasury Select Committee has been referenced in this debate. The post offices really are not a fair substitute for a branch of a bank. It's very unfair. Many of my sub-postmasters in Stirling constituency do not have the facilities or the resources to become an alternative to the bank branch that once existed next door to them or on the same street as them. And it's not fair on the customers or the community that those bank branches were serving. The suggestions being put forward is a very fair one about banking hubs. And I very strongly believe, and I say this again to the Minister, as a Conservative, that the banks should be encouraged, perhaps more than that. A reference was made to carrots and sticks earlier, to come together and to fund the creation of a community banking hub. Perhaps that would be in conjunction with the post office, but just taking a laissez-faire approach to these facilities, I don't think is going to hack it. Now, it's been said by the banks that the post office should be encouraged to take up the slack, and they said they will support the local post offices. But guess what happens? In my constituency, one postmaster, when I asked him, what support did the bank give you when they moved out of town? They said, oh, I got a bundle of leaflets so I could put them out on my counter. That was the sum total of the support. And so, as I conclude, when bank branches are closed and they've been told that they will give support to the community, to the local post offices, then what is the mechanism by which that support is actually delivered? What is there that is there as a positive encouragement for the bank to actually deliver on that support? What will the government do about the situations that I'm describing? Isn't it time that we came up with a policy to deal with this situation? And I hope the Minister will be able to describe fully today what the Treasury... Because this is not any old Minister of the Crown that is going to reply to this debate. This is a Treasury. This is a Treasury Minister. And so great expectations on all of our part. But we need radical ideas now to make sure that these vital banking services and community services are available across the villages and towns of Scotland, in fact, the whole of the United Kingdom. And the government does have a role and a responsibility to enable and support this, and I urge them to do so. And on one last note, mobile banking has been mentioned. I cannot sit down without mentioning the people of Dunblane who were told they would have a mobile banking service. A few minutes every other week. That is not a replacement for a bank facility. And that's the kind of support, the kind of recompense that communities have been offered by banks have deserted them when the people of this country were not slow to step up to the mark, to bail them out because of the mess they had made, something that I, for one, and many of my colleagues will not forget in a hurry.